Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB. We're getting ready to start the Skynet. So if anybody needs to use the repeater, please use it now, N5BB. Is there any other station on right now that can hit the W5FC Echolink node? Right now, when I try, it shows it's not logged in. Is anybody successful in reaching W5FC-R right now? This is N5BB, net control for Skynet.
Bill, the Echolink node is down for now. It's a server issue at the other end. I've been working with the people on it to see getting it fixed. So they've not done so and probably will not for the rest of the evening. KE5ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Yeah, the Irving node is up, but yours is down. Okay, so let me get ready to start Skynet. Hold on. Thank you, Tom. Hang on, everybody, while I find the online script. I got distracted by a critical telephone call, and now I'm having to look it up. So hang on while I come up here and get the script running. Okay, we're getting there. This is N5BB. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy and space. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority emergency traffic can enter the net at any time using the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without directions from your net control, myself, and stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates in 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Echolink stations cannot check in tonight because we're having a technical problem, so I apologize for that, but we cannot use Echolink tonight. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5sc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net's 90 minutes long. Excuse me. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. General announcements: Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society. Discussion topic of the evening by the net control was up. space exploration and space history, the Constellation of the Week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and if we have time, visible satellite passages for the next couple of days, questions and answers in the 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit here are invited to check in. Now, let's start with short-time check-ins. Any short-time check-ins? To Skynet. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, net control. Wow, that's slow. Let's try one more time. Do we have any short-time check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Okay, do we have any check-ins of any type for Skynet? This is N5BB. Please come with your name, your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weber.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf 9er Sierra Golf Antonio in Dallas, AG9SG.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Whiskey 5, Bacon Lettuce Tomato, W5BLT, Bill, Garland.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
Okay, let's pause there. I recognize KU5ICX, Tom. And then going to the order of check-ins, W5GUS, Gus, KG5BZW, hello, Jay. AG9SG, hello, Antonio. WB5OZL, hi, Brenda. NV5S, and you also, Virginia. W5BLT, hello to Bill. KF5ZBL, another Bill. And AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. We're sorry, Echolink node is down. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Wow, this may be a very minimal net. Let's try one more time. This is Skynet, run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Echolink is down. Do we have any other RF check-ins of any type for Skynet? This is N5BB.
November 5, India Mike Sierra, JJ in Carrollton.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, I recognize N5IMS. Hi, JJ. Sorry we made you come in on RF. KG5APL. Hello, Patrick. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? Again, Echolink is down tonight, and it's not on our end. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Nothing heard. Okay. Now, general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for tonight's net? These can be related to amateur radio, astronomy, space, or something of general interest to licensed hams. If you have any announcements, then please come now with your call sign only. Wow, that's going slow. Bill, excuse me. Bill, GF5ZBL, do you want to talk about the Winter Diner?
Well, sure I could. N5BB, KF5ZBL, and the Nets. Winter, I'll give you the meeting first. Next meeting is December the 6th at 7 p.m. It's our usual every year, I should say, pizza party. So come on out to the next meeting, 7 p.m. at the hospital at Web's Chapel 635 at 7 p.m. and bring a pizza and watch some movies by K5I6 and K5BP. They always bring some funny kind of videos for us to watch, and it's just a good time to just have camaraderie and social events, and we'll also have results of the elections that happened this last month, so for your new officers. And then on December the 15th, 6:30 at Sonny Bryan's in Richardson will be the Winter Diner. You know, it's kind of like a Christmas party, but is it a Christmas party? Yes, Christmas dinner. It's a get-together where we can all get together and eat together. And you never know, there might be store prizes and things like that. So come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Sonny Bryan's, December 15th at 6:30. KF5ZBL.
Okay, very good, Bill. So the order of things going on, the Irving Amateur Radio Club has our holiday party in Irving this next Thursday, December the 8th at 6:30 p.m. And then the following Thursday, December the 15th at 6:30 p.m., the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a party there at Sonny Bryan's Barbecue. So different locations, they're both barbecue at two different clubs, same time on Thursday. Okay, and then we have the club meeting coming up on Tuesday of this coming week. So, do we have any other announcements, either about amateur radio or space or anything else involving amateur radio or space, N5BB? Okay. I'm going to go through these pretty quick here so we don't waste too much time. AMSAT has a net here, and the net I'm going to really talk about is two local nets. One is on Tuesday night, except for when there's a DARC meeting, so it won't be this coming Tuesday night, but other Tuesday nights, there's an AMSAT net on this repeater at 8 p.m., Every Wednesday night, there is an AMSAT net on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater, and that's at 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. AMSAT is the Amateur Satellite Corporation, so this net is about talking on using satellites in general for amateur radio purposes. There's all kinds of other nets. On Monday night, there's various nets. On Friday night, we have the CERT net, CERT City net. Every night of the week, we have at 6:30 p.m. on this frequency, we have the early DFW traffic net, except when there's a club meeting. And every night of the week on the 146.72 megahertz Irving repeater, there's a late traffic net at 10:30. And then on Saturday night, the night of nets, we have TechNet starting at 7 p.m., Skynet starting at 9 p.m., and at 10:30 we have the Afterglow net. And we have a rather serious movie that we're going to talk about in the Afterglow net tonight. Tom, would you like to describe it in 5BB?
Yes, thank you, Bill. And I always write these up and send it out for everybody who is on the Afterglow movie net, so they have an idea, or absolutely no idea what the movie is, because I'm trying to figure out. So here it is. Grossman's Scale was a fervent anti-communist, so much so he went into a fury when someone offered him a vodka and tonic at a cocktail party. He also objected to the phrase cocktail party, thinking it was a Trotsky front for unwanted authoritarian change. He continued to sit in his chair by himself at the party, waving his hand in the air and shouting, "Never again." There was no doubt the man was crazy and a nuisance to other guests. He then launched into another diatribe. "Did you hear that? It sounded like a nuclear missile headed straight towards us." The other guests began searching for duct tape. Join us for our first Christmas movie of the season, Failsafe from 1963, I think it's 1963, night at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICS.
Yeah, 63 or 64. By the way, this movie is by a just iconic director at the peak of his skills, with some really interesting acting by, some top actors also. And it's a really dark subject, let's put it that way. But, we're talking about whether there'll be nuclear weapons used over in Ukraine, so, it's kind of a movie for the time here, 2022 also. Again, Failsafe on the Afterglow movie at 10:30 this evening. So does anybody have any questions about these news items or the movie of the night or the nets we have during the week, or any late check-ins? Please come now. This is N5BB Skynet.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell. Check-in only.
Kilo 5, India Charlie X-ray recheck.
Q5 JDW. Hello, John. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, well, with Echolink down, there are people listening in on the YouTube, and I do have Joe in Arlington, Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, KG5ZMG. He just wanted to check in, so you can add him to the list. That's all, KG5IC.
Very good. Hello, Joe. KG5ZMG. I'll recognize you. Any other check-ins or questions or comments before we move ahead? This is N5BB Skynet. I apologize, my voice is not the best tonight. Being outside, walking around, and doing things in the weather may not have helped any. Tom, since Chaz isn't here, can you talk about Texas Astronomical Society events? This is N5BB.
Yes, I can. They're having their annual holiday party tonight, and so he wanted to attend. So he left me with these notes. He says there's no TAS general meeting in December due to the holiday. The next TAS club meeting will be on Friday, January 27th, 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and will be held on Zoom. Featured speaker will be Dr. Erica Ellingson from the University of Chicago, and her topic is on prehistoric moon watchers. And Saturday night and a reminder, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked on Saturday night so that we had an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. You can check the TAS website, which is texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. That's it from me, Bill, KU5ICS.
Well, thank you, Tom. Yep, cool, clear nights with that are still with no wind should be very good viewing conditions. Okay. Next, let's talk about National Space Society events. I happen to be the member-at-large and membership director for the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society, which is a group of enthusiasts for humans' uses of space. This could be various kinds of spacecraft and humans going to the moon or Mars, et cetera, et cetera. Space stations, you name it. And we meet every month in Irving. This month we're going to have a Christmas party, which, cross your fingers, if my house gets finished this next week, it will be a week from tomorrow. If for some reason it isn't ready, then we will probably meet at a regular Spring Creek barbecue place in Irving. That's the backup location. So if you're interested in the National Space Society, you can reach me at November 5 Bravo Bravo, that's N5BB at ARRL.net, or space, that's SPACE at Byrom.net, SPACE at BYROM.net. The big event coming up for the National Space Society here locally will be the International Space Development Conference 2023. It's going to be held this coming May. It's going to be in Frisco, right on the north side of Dallas, at the Embassy Suites in Frisco. It will be May the 25th to 28th. That's right before that holiday, right around that holiday weekend. May the 25th to 28th of 2023 in Frisco. If you want to attend the International Space Development Conference, you'll get a discount if you join the National Space Society well before that. So you can get the early bird offers, and you can get the National Space Society member discount. You can find out more about the International Space Development Conference by going to ISDC2023.nss.org. Again, it's ISDC, that stands for International Space Development Conference, 2023.nss.org. NSS is National Space Society. So that's everything I have about National Space Society right now. We have a Facebook page, but I don't really care about Facebook, but you can look at it if you want to. And we have a website, and it's NSS of nssofnt.org. That's how you can find us. Or just go to your favorite search engine. National Space Society of North Texas. So, before I continue, does anybody have questions about the National Space Society, the International Space Development Conference, or do you want to check in? This is N5BB, Skynet.
November 5, Alpha Juliet Delta, Aaron, North Dallas, check in.
W5AJD. Hello, Aaron. Do we have any other check-ins?
KE5ICX, recheck.
Go ahead, Tom. I'm going to get something to drink when you, so I can clear my throat while you're talking. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'll go slowly so you can get your water. We have another check-in. This is from Marcia. She's KG50MR over in Dallas. And she is over on YouTube. The Echolink is down. Echolink will be back. There was a problem with the servers today, and it is a connection issue that I've been working on this afternoon and this evening. It's not on our end. It is at the server site, so hopefully we'll get this up and running. I think those folks have checked out for the evening, so it is a volunteer system, so can't exactly demand justice and expect immediate results. They do this out of their own pocket and in their own volunteers, so hopefully we'll get this back up either later tonight, more likely probably tomorrow. So sorry. If you want to, you can go to YouTube and look up DARC Skynet, and you can be able to listen and watch what's going on there. You have some means of hearing it right now. So if you get any contacts from anyone electronically, go ahead and let them know that way as well. That's it from me, Bill, and hope you're back. This is KE5ICX.
Yes, I am, Tom. Thank you very much for that information. And I'm not watching the YouTube thing, but hopefully Tom has pulled up at least one image, or maybe he's gone to the other links and pulled up more images. But I'm ready now for the topic of the evening. Before I do that, any other check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Oh, and hello, Marcia. Okay. This is N5BB. Our discussion topic of the evening I'm calling gravitational lensing of supernova at different times. So there's an issue with the fact that supernova occur. A lot of things happen comparatively quickly by the time of most things occurring in astronomy. You think about things occurring over long periods of time, but supernovas occur rather rapidly, and in the space of a few days Earth time, there's a lot of material ejected, and there's a lot of different changes to the brightness and different X-rays and all kinds of things occurring. And so there's a great interest in catching a supernova and watching the light curve in different wavelengths. So you might look at the brilliance of the supernova in visible light over time, like over a few days, hours and days, or weeks, and you might look at it in X-rays, and if you have available, maybe even gamma rays, and infrared and radio waves. The trouble is, if you don't find the supernova until well after it's occurred and it's already decaying, it's kind of hard get everybody turning their telescopes on it, it's already too late, and it takes them too late. It's too late to get it all organized. So there's something very interesting happened here recently. This was made after the fact. This was some measurements made by the Hubble Space Telescope, and it was archival images. So this is data that had been taken in the past, and they were looking through these, and they suddenly discovered that there was a supernova which occurred about 11.5 billion years ago, when the universe was in its relative infancy, and they could only see the supernova because the light of this incredibly distant object was focused with gravitational lensing. So gravitational lensing occurs when there's an object between the far distant object and us here on the Earth, and the light from the far distant object is going around the near object, or the object between us, and the gravity, because of Einstein's theory of relativity and gravity, is bending the light in toward us. It's essentially refocusing it. So it's imaging a distant object by light that's going through a big area that's then coming back to us. And because of that, you're getting light from a large area that's coming to us in what it appears to be a small point, and that makes it much brighter, much more intense than it would appear if this wasn't occurring. Plus, it gives you more resolution. It can allow you to see details, spatial resolution that you could not get with a regular observation. This is N5BB, Skynet. By the way, right now I'm talking off the top of my head just in general about this because I find it easier to do that. So, gravitational lensing has been used mostly actually for far distant objects with galaxies providing the lens. So imagine that there's a galaxy between us and the Milky Way galaxy and this far distant thing, 11.5 billion light years away. Somewhere in the middle, there's another galaxy. And light from this distant object going out in a significant angular divergence gets bent by that whole galaxy back toward us, and it's bending it back toward more of a focal point back here. And this was again theorized to be possible by Einstein and other people looking at his theory of gravity, but it wasn't actually discovered until a couple of decades ago, when suddenly they were finding, oh man, this gives us this huge ability, amazing ability to look at far distant things that we couldn't see otherwise. And the Hubble Space Telescope and other telescopes have been very instrumental at doing this. Well, what they've found, this is in 5BB. What they found was that this particular far distant supernova, 11.5 billion years ago, was lensed by the galactic cluster, Abell 370. And it turns out that the light wasn't just focused by one object, essentially by three objects, this cluster of galaxies. And so we have three images of the supernova, and because the light was going significantly different distances, the light appeared at Earth 8 days different. So we had the object, the first light we got from that created one image. 2 days later, there was a second image that was created, and then 8 days after the first one, there was a third image. So all three images were from that same supernova, but we can see them at three different times. So as you can see now, we can see when the supernova occurs, there's a decay in the light curve. So now that we got this snapshot from the Hubble Space Telescope, it's giving us three different times with one image. Now, this is really an amazing thing. You take a picture at one time, but you can see what the object looks like now, 2 days ago, and 8 days ago, all with one picture. So anyway, so this is a really amazing thing that they've discovered, and they're going to try to see if they can use it for some other observations now that they found that this really works for these extremely difficult objects. And in particular, for this particular object, they've been able to find a lot about the way that the supernova was, how its light curve was decaying. This is N5BB, Skynet. So the lead author of the paper, which was in Nature magazine, was Wenlai Chen, who is based at the University of Minnesota in the U.S. He says, he or she, I'm not sure if it's he or she, says, core collapse supernova like this one mark the death of massive stars, which are short-lived because they burn up quickly compared to stars with less mass. So again, this is a very massive star which doesn't last very long. They burn up really quick, and then their cores collapse, creating this kind of supernova. When the core of the star exploded, a shock wave launched that heated the outer part of the star, causing it to expand and cool along the way. This gives rise to a light curve. This is how a star's brightness changes over time, with a distinct shape that depends on the size of the star that exploded. From this, the team estimates the radius of the progenitor star was around 530 times larger than the Sun. This is the radius, which, as you can imagine, the mass and the volume is really big. This is a size that is consistent with a red supergiant. The significant redshift of the star's light curve means the universe was just 2.2 billion years old when the supernova occurred. This is the first time that scientists have been able to measure the size of a dying supergiant star, as it was more than 10 billion years ago, Chen explains. Usually, distant supernovae are too faint to be detected and identified using existing telescopes. Team member Jose Maria Diego of Spain's Institute de Física de Cantabria explains why this detection is so significant. What makes this supernova special is that we are witnessing the first instance after the explosion. He told Physics World, supernova are also normally found much closer to us. This one is perhaps in the top 5 or so most distant supernova ever observed. He also pointed out these types of core collapse supernova are referred to as standard candles by astronomers because their light curves are so well defined that they can be used to measure cosmic distances. In other words, they can compute from the shape of the light curve, they can actually figure the absolute brightness. And by looking at the absolute brightness, they can figure the distance. This means that finding more examples like this one could help test models of cosmic evolution. Indeed, this supernova is only visible because of a gravitational phenomenon that arises from Albert Einstein's 1915 general theory of relativity. This is N5BB, Skynet. The theory says that a massive object such as a galaxy causes a significant deformation in nearby space-time, and this deformation will bend the trajectory of light that passes near the galaxy. As a result, a galaxy can act as a gravitational lens that can focus light from a distant star towards Earth, giving astronomers a magnified view of the star. A gravitational lens can also create multiple images of the same star that are separate in space. The massive lensing object responsible for making the distant supernova appear 3 times in the Hubble image is the galactic cluster Abell 370. That's ABELL 370, which is located almost 5 billion light years from the Earth in the constellation of Cetus in 5BB, Skynet. The light in each of the 3 images took different paths to Earth, and these paths were of different lengths. This means the images show the star at a sequence of 3 different times within 8 days after the explosion. The fact that one of the images corresponds to just a few hours after the explosion is a remarkable discovery. We usually see supernova days or weeks after they explode. Only supernova that exploded near to us have been observed hours after the explosion. We have never before seen an early supernova at this distance. Chen says the team plans to use the James Webb Space Telescope that was just turned on this summer to further investigate this supernova and to search for more gravitationally lensed supernova in the early universe. He adds that discovering more distant core collapse supernova should enable astronomers to gain a better understanding of star formation in the early universe. And remember that because the James Webb Space Telescope has some near-infrared and mid-infrared cameras. It's very good at the mid-infrared. It's able to look at objects which are much further from us than the Hubble because it can look farther into the infrared. What does that mean we can look at further objects? Well, they're further redshifted because of the expansion of the universe. The further you can see down to the red, the further an object you can see because that object will be older and the light will be shifted further into the red as the object, the light is stretched out in time by the expansion of the universe. It's the same as the Doppler effect when you hear if you were listening to an amateur satellite and it was moving away from you, the frequency would appear to be going down. You have to retune your receiver. And that's the same exact thing here. That the frequency appears to be going down, which means it's becoming more and more red. It's moving from visible into the infrared. Okay, that's all I've got. Do we have any questions, or do we have any check-ins or comments? This is in 5BB, Skynet.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, with a comment.
And Dallas, checking in.
Okay, hold on. We had a double. I heard K5JDW. Please stand by, John. Who is the other station?
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet. Dustin and Dallas, just checking in.
We got you, Dustin, KF5UJ. John, K5JDW. You were weak, but I think that's because you were doubling. Go away with your question, John.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for that story. It's an awesome story, and I know there's going to be a bunch of 3D computers out there mapping the map and everything, try to figure out where we can employ that again. I just want to make sure everybody understood that, you know, when you give a reference like it's in Cetus or something, I'm sure most of us understand that, but I just want to make sure everybody understands it. You know, it's just a point of reference. It's nowhere near Cetus, of course, in our galaxy, but that just is, you know, where you want to look through. Anyway, that's all. K5JW.
Exactly. That's like talking about looking at something in the Big Dipper. Well, the different stars in the Big Dipper are not at the same distance from us. And if you look at things through the Big Dipper, some of the things are dramatically different distances. So yeah, just because you look at something a certain direction doesn't mean all the things in that direction are at the same distance. Not that way. And the Hubble Deep Field showed us many, many galaxies at very big distances. And then the very first images from the James Webb Space Telescope doing something similar, looking at some deep field images. What deep field is you look at an area with no bright stars. And so you're kind of in empty space. It's kind of like looking at somewhere where there's nothing there that you can easily see. And you do a long capture, okay? In some cases, these things with space telescopes, you can have captures of like 100 hours or longer. You look at a very long capture, which means you're building up a lot. You're getting individual photons over a long time, so you can see incredibly dim things. And the James Webb Space Telescope has got such an incredible resolution, and it can see so far into the infrared, and it's so sensitive that the first time they did that, they saw many more distant galaxies than they had anticipated. Even though they knew what the telescope should be able to do, it was even better than that. So the James Webb Telescope already is leading us to a lot of information about the very early universe because it's able to see things so far back in time because of its incredible sensitivity in the infrared and its incredible resolution. It's really awesome if you start reading about looking at Hubble versus Webb and then looking at how far into the infrared the Webb can see things that the Hubble just couldn't tell that were there. And with the Webb telescope, you've got incredible resolution of them. Anyway, okay, thank you very much, John. Do we have any other comments before we move ahead to the net, or any other check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, I think we're moving pretty quick here, Tom. Let's go to What's Up. Tom, would you mind giving us the What's Up? We're going to talk about the moon, aren't we, Tom? KE5ICX and 5BB.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. The segment's usually done by Chaz, KF5JHA, our professional astronomer. But he is at a Christmas party this evening, so we won't be hearing from him. So he left me with this to do, and I don't mind. Slide one that we have here is, we call this segment Skynet Was Up. Now, about the moon, that's right, and that is that on November 30th, the moon was at its first quarter phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. On December 7th, the moon will be full. On December 11th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,859 kilometers. The moon is at third quarter on December 16th, and the new moon happens on December 23rd. On December 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth in a distance of 358,270 kilometers. Next is the monoceratoid peak. This is let me say this, on the night of December 8th, 9th, with a handful of meteors per hour. On the same night, the Sigma Hydrid peaks with about 7 meteors per hour, and then the Gemini is one of the major meteor showers during the year, and it peaks at the night of December 13th and 14th with up to 150 meteors per hour. That's 3 meteor showers in one day. during one period, or pretty close to that. So bring your umbrellas. More information about meteor showers can be found at the International Meteor Organization, which is IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society, which is amsmeteors.org. On slide 4, we've got a couple of orbital paths of Earth's orbit and Mars' orbit. They talk about it here. About every 26 months, both Mars and Earth are on the same side of the solar system. This means that they are close to each other every 26 months. NASA uses this time to their advantage by often sending spacecraft to Mars when the two planets are close together. Opposition is when the object is opposite the Sun. In other words, when it is 180 degrees away from the Sun in bright ascension in the sky as viewed from Earth. If all of the planet's orbits were circular and all were in exactly the same plane as the Earth's orbital plane, then the moment a planet is opposite the Sun in the sky would be the same as the closest approach. Since this isn't the case, opposition and closest approach are usually a few days apart. December 7th, 2022 said opposition of Mars, while November 30th, 2022 was the closest approach. And we have slide 6, which is delayed. By the way, when you're watching the video, there is a delay since they do that on YouTube. So you have to be patient. The slide will eventually show up. So here we go. We've got a couple of pictures of Mars on the screen. Back on August 28, 2003, the distance between Earth and Mars was only 34.65 million miles away. To be exact, 34,649,589 miles. How did they get that so close? On the last close approach of Mars and Earth on October 6, 2020, we were separated by 38.6 million miles. On this close approach, on November 30th, 2022, we were separated by 50.6 million miles. The next really good close approach is 2035, but it'll be in the year 2287 on August 28th. For Mars to get closer than what it was in 2003. A few days ago, on November 30th, Mars was at its closest approach to the Earth. On December 7th, Mars will be in opposition, which means it is 180 degrees away from or opposite the Sun in the sky. On December 7th, the Moon occults the planet Mars in the evening sky. An occultation is usually when the Moon blocks or occults a star or asteroid or planet. Occultations of stars by the Moon happen on almost a nightly basis, but the occultation of a planet by the Moon is a rare occurrence. The planet Mars will disappear behind the Moon at 8:53:47 p.m. Central Standard Time on December 7th. Mars will reappear at around 9:28:01 Central Standard Time. These times are the predictions for the Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. Times will vary at other locations. We usually don't have a planet, nor the Moon close to the deep sky object, but on December 12th, the planet Mercury will be about 2 degrees away from the Sagittarius star cluster M22. And just 4 days later, on December 16th, Dallas will be about 1/4 of a degree away from Sagittarius star cluster M22. And I am KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. There is no TAS general meeting in December due to the holidays. The next TAS club meeting will be on Friday, January 27, 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. It will be held on Zoom. Featured speaker will be Dr. Erica Ellingson from Moonwatchers, from the University of Colorado, and her topic will be, prehistoric moonwatchers. On Sunday night, Also, Sunday night public observing sessions have again begun. Skynet was picked on Saturday night so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing session. You can check the TAS website, which is texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about the meeting and public observing session. Okay, I am not the astronomy expert, but I will attempt to answer questions. If I don't know the correct answer, I will lie. So Chaz at this point asks, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need any fills on any of the information, or you do have a general astronomy question? Now is your call if you have a question. Thankfully, there were no questions. So as the moon waned at the beginning of November, so do these words from this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Till next week, actually, I'll be doing another segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And that's it from me and from Chaz. Back to our net control.
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB, Skynet. By the way, while you were talking, I was like a kid in the candy store. I was opening up a shipment from ARRL and pulled out of the box a soft cover version of the ARRL 100th year anniversary handbook and a hard copy version. And the ARL had a special deal, and if you ordered over the a few-day period there after on Thanksgiving, if you ordered the 100th anniversary hardcover, you got some free little gifts they threw in, and they're kind of neat. I mean, I've got a ARL playing cards and a repeater directory and other little stuff. So cool. Like I say, it's Christmas here in early December here at N5BB house. So do we have any late check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB net control. And get ready, Kelly, if you can make it. Nothing heard. Tom, have you heard anything from Kelly since it's her turn tonight for the space exploration and space history? Have you heard anything from her, or is she not going to be able to participate in 5BB?
Well, not only do I get to be Chaz, I also get to be Kelly this evening. She has moved to a new house, and she does not have an antenna up, and she's been doing the last few nets via Echolink, which is down. So I sent her a note and said that was the case and asked if I could go ahead and do her presentation for her, and I can do exactly that. I got everything here. KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. That sounds like a winner. Go right ahead. N5BB. Skynet is in progress.
All right, well, Kelly always begins with telling us what the latest and greatest is. In this case, it is Artemis. After departing a distant retrograde orbit, this afternoon, the afternoon of Thursday, December 1st, Orion completed a planned trajectory correction burn to fine-tune its course towards the moon. 5-second burn occurred at 9:54 Central Time Thursday and changed the spacecraft velocity by 0.3 miles per hour, or less than half a foot per second. On December 2nd, teams collected additional images with Orion's optical navigation camera and downloaded a wide variety of data files to the ground, including data from the Hybrid Electronic Radiation Assessor, or HERA. The radiation detector measures charged particles that pass through its sensors. Measurements from HERA and several other radiation-related sensors and experiments aboard Artemis 1 will help NASA better understand space radiation, environment future crews will experience, and develop effective protections as well. On crewed missions, HERA will be part of the spacecraft's caution and warning system and will sound a warning in the case of a solar energetic particle notifying the crew to take shelter. NASA is also testing similar HERA units aboard the International Space Station. Orion carries other experiments to gather data on radiation, including several radiation area monitors about the size of a matchbox that records the total radiation dose during the mission. Dosimeters provided by ESA, that's the European Space Agency, mounted inside the cabin to collect radiation data with timestamps to allow scientists to assess dose rates during various mission phases, and 3 purposeful passengers collecting additional information on what crews will experience during future missions. 4 space biology investigations, collectively called Biology Experiment 1, are examining the impact of deep space radiation on seeds, fungi, yeast, and algae. Orion re-enters the lunar sphere of influence today, Saturday, December 3rd, making the moon the main gravitational force acting on the spacecraft. It will exit the lunar sphere of influence for a final time on Tuesday, December 6th, one day after its return powered flyby about 79 miles above the lunar surface. NASA will provide live coverage of Orion's return flyby of the moon on Monday, December 5th, as well as its return to Earth on Sunday, December 11th. And now it's time for space and NASA history. In space history this week, on November 28, 1659, I remember it well, Dutch mathematician and astronomer Christian Huygens saw a dark region on Mars. This Major, the first Martian surface feature spotted from Earth. Syrtis Major is a volcanic plain on Mars. Huygens observed it through his telescope and made a drawing of it. On November 28, 1963, just 6 days after President John F. Kennedy's assassination, President Lyndon B. Johnson announced that NASA's Launch Operations Center would be renamed the John F. Kennedy Space Center in honor of the late president. This center on Merritt Island, Florida, has served as the launch place for some of NASA's most defining flights, including the Skylab Orbital Workshop. I was there. I saw it. Apollo 11, all of the shuttle launches, and most recently, the Artemis 1 launch. On November 9, 1961, astronaut John Glenn was selected to be the first American sent into Earth orbit. Scott Carpenter was named as the backup. Public announcement wasn't made until early December. Glenn would launch on the Friendship 7 capsule just a few months later on February 20th, 1962. It was on this Mercury Atlas 6 mission when the automatic system in his craft malfunctioned, and Glenn's skills as a pilot would truly be tested. Glenn's ability to successfully maneuver his capsule through its second and third orbits was a true testament of his skill and demeanor. Glenn went on to be a 4-term senator for Ohio and became the oldest person to fly in space when it was launched on STS-95 in 1998. On December 2nd, I don't have a date for this, it says, is noteworthy for the history, oh, here it is, of NASA space shuttle launches. 4 shuttle launches happened on December 2nd, more than any other day in the calendar year. In 1988, STS-27 Atlantis launched on a Department of Defense or DoD mission. In 1990, STS-35 Columbia launched with the Astro 1 Observatory. In 1992, STS-53, Discovery, launched on another DoD mission. And finally, in 1993, STS-61, Endeavour, launched on the first Hubble Space Telescope servicing mission. Did you notice that each of the December 2nd launches was on a different shuttle? The only shuttle not to launch on this day was Challenger. And, of course, on December 2nd, 1993, speaking of STS-61, Space Shuttle Endeavour launched the first of 5 servicing missions to the Hubble Space Telescope. On this mission, crew members successfully corrected a flaw in Hubble's primary mirror by installing the corrective optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, or COSTAR. That's a great acronym. COSTAR countered the effects of the flawed mirror, which had been ground too flat along its outer edge by 2.2 microns. That's 1/50th the thickness of human hair. COSTAR redirected light reflected from the outer edge of the mirror just enough that it would line up exactly with light reflected everywhere else on the mirror, as intended. Over the course of their 10-day mission, the crew aboard STS-61 successfully installed COSTAR and replaced a number of older components that facilitated a flood of precision science data. On December 3rd, 1974, Pioneer 11 made its closest approach as it flew by the planet Jupiter. Pioneer 11 was the second spacecraft to do a Jupiter flyby. Pioneer 10 had flown by a year earlier in December of 1973. And Pioneer 11 flew on a very different trajectory that allowed it to return the first images of the polar regions of Jupiter and brought it 3 times closer to the planet than Pioneer 10. Another important difference from the previous mission is Pioneer 11 used Jupiter's gravity to set it on a course for Saturn. About 5 years later, in September of 1979, Pioneer 11 became the first probe to do a flyby of Saturn. Pioneer 11 was launched on April 6, 1973. Science operations stopped in 1995, 22 years after the launch and after the encounter with Saturn. The spacecraft is now on a path away from our solar system towards the center of our galaxy. And this week we have 4 astronaut birthdays, starting with November 27, 1952, James Weatherby. He was on STS-32, 52, 63, 86, 102, and 113. The guy was busy. On November 29th, I think it, well, I don't have dates on here either. It shows, well, we'll just assume he's old enough to drive. Kenneth Cameron was on STS-37, 56, and 74 on December 1st. Harry Vert was on STS-130 and Expedition 42 and 43 on December 3rd. Stephen Swanson was on STS-117, 119, and Expedition 39 and 40. So there you have it. This is what Ms. Kelly had put out for us. She always does a great job, as does Brenda, who also contributes to this, and they alternate each week. So, Bill, I'm sending it back to you. Well, I'm sending it back to you, and then I get it right back. So I'm just the star of the show this week. Back to you, Bill, for now.
Well, Tom, I can't do all the talking. It's the Tom and Bill show this evening. This is N5. Thank you, Tom. We really appreciate your assistance. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. Do we have any questions, comments, or check-ins? If so, please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth is checking in.
Thank you, Sean. My pen wasn't writing initially. It was skipping, so I had to mess with it so I could copy your name down. KB9SOK. Very good, Sean. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? Now it's time for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Take it away, Tom. And 5BB.
And this is KE5ICX. My name is Tom, and I am not Chaz. Neither am I Spock. So, he wrote a book, I am not Spock. So, I am not Chaz. Maybe Chaz has a book named that. Or maybe I do. I don't know. Okay, here we go. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Kate Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the total of 88 constellations, so doing the math, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her, Miss Carolyn's constellation this week is Cassiopeia, the Queen. I've told the myth behind Cassiopeia in the past. It is the queen of Cepheus, and Cepheus is the king. Andromeda is the princess. Perseus is the hero. Perseus is his flying horse, and Cetus is the sea monster. All of these characters are constellations in the sky. All right, don't shoot the messenger. I did not write the jokes of the week. These are all Chaz's, and I plead complete ignorance to this, but I will read them. Do not get mad at me. Do not egg my house. The first one is, the lobby at my local Dairy Queen was closed to short staff. What does that mean? They should have hired taller employees. Okay. What did the king say when the queen gifted him a fool for his birthday? I have no use for one of these, but it was a nice gesture. Next is, if there's a king and a queen size mattress, where does the prince sit? Prince sleep. On the air, ATIR mattresses. I can't make this stuff up. What role does Queen Latifah play in The Equalizer? A Vigil auntie. And that is, I am not Chaz, but I am Tom, KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. Vigil auntie. Okay, slide number 16. Now we're talking about the stars. Gamma Cassiopeia is an unstable blue giant star which throws off shells of material at random intervals. Gamma Cas is a variable, but its brightness variations are unpredictable. There are two patches of faint nebulosity nearby, IC59 and IC63, which means you can see them, which appear to be associated with the star. Miss Carolyn probably had several observations of this star. I recommend visiting the AAVSO, the American Association of Variable Star Observers, for more information about variable stars and how to observe them. Eta Cassiopeia is a double star found between Alpha and Gamma Cas. William Herschel discovered the star's binary nature in 1789. This binary is easily split with two small telescopes. The primary looks yellow, and the companion appears orange. Slide number 17, we talk about M52, the salt and pepper cluster. It's an open cluster discovered by Messier himself in 1774. Appearing as a fuzzy patch in binoculars in a small telescope, over 100 individual stars are seen, some with different colors. The 80-millimeter short focus refractor shows M52 as an easily noticeable round fuzzball at 8 power with a single foreground star visible near one edge. 16 power makes it bigger and brighter, but with no resolution. 24 power starts to resolve some of the brighter stars. Slide number 18 is M105. Since this star cluster is not very dense, binoculars will resolve the brightest stars in the group, making it a nice object for both binoculars and small telescopes. The cluster has a somewhat triangular outline and therefore has been noted as being fan-shaped or having a Christmas tree shape by different observers. A number of the stars have different colors, making for some nice color contrast. In an 80-millimeter f5 scope, the triangular outline is easily noticeable with the triangle surrounding many fainter stars that are partially unresolvable. One bright star that is not part of the triangle is yellow-orange. Other stars are white or blue-white. Slide number 19 has an NGC 451. This is also known as the OWL cluster or ET cluster, another very open cluster for binoculars or small telescopes. The distinctive outline of this cluster can be made with the smallest of scopes. Many folks see the cluster as an owl with an outstretched wing. Others see it as ET, the extraterrestrial, holding his arms out. In either case, two bright stars, Phi 1 and Phi 2, Cassiopeia E, form the eye. There are many more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation Cassiopeia the Queen. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has at least 75 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week, a Constellation of the Week, this time Cassiopeia the Queen. And Chaz says, I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and work on the deep sky objects that have used, borrowed, and stole for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellationsguide.com for this information. Next time, Chaz will be back, and we'll be looking at Andromeda, the princess. And that's it, Bill. That's all I got for you this evening, and I bet you're going to send it right back to me in just a minute. But there you go. Do what you need to do. I'm going to rest my voice for about 30 seconds. This is KE5ICX, back to Net Control.
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Tom, I'm going to give you a bigger delay so you can go and get a bite to eat or something, because I'm going to turn it over to Brenda, WB50ZL, if you're there, still there, Brenda, to talk about recent astronomical discoveries. That'll give Tom time to rest his voice and be ready to talk about space launches. So, Brenda, you got a very interesting recent astronomical discovery. Go ahead, WB50ZL and 5BB, Skynet.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. The title of this article is Mysteriously Bright Flash is a Black Hole Jet Pointing Straight Toward Earth, astronomers say. It's probably not as scary as it sounds. Astronomers have determined the source of an incredibly bright X-ray optical and radio signal appearing from halfway across the universe. The signal, named AT2022CMC, was discovered earlier this year by the Zwicky Transient Facility in California. Findings published today in Nature Astronomy suggest that it is likely from a jet of matter streaking out from a supermassive black hole at close to the speed of light. The team, including researchers from MIT and the University of Birmingham, believe the jet is the product of a black hole that suddenly began devouring a nearby star, releasing a huge amount of energy in the process. Their findings could shed new light on how supermassive black holes feed and grow. Astronomers have observed other such tidal disruption events, or TDEs, in which a passing star is torn apart by a black hole's tidal forces. However, AT2022CMC is brighter than any TDE discovered to date, and is also the farthest TDE ever detected at some 8.5 billion light years away. The team measured the distance to the AT2022CMC using the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope in Chile. Dr. Matt Nickel, associate professor at the University of Birmingham, said, "Our spectrum told us the source was hot, around 30,000 degrees, which is typical for a TDE. But we also saw some absorption of light by the galaxy where this event occurred. These absorption lines were highly shifted towards redder wavelengths, telling us that this galaxy was much further away than we expected. How could such a distant event appear so bright in our sky? The team says the black hole's jet may be pointing directly toward Earth, making the signal appear brighter than if the jet were pointing in any other direction. The effect is Doppler boosting and is similar to the amped-up sound of a passing siren. At AT2022CMC is the fourth Doppler-boosted TDE ever detected and the first such event that has been observed since 2011. It is also the first boosted TDE discovered using an optical sky survey. As more powerful telescopes start up in the coming years, they will reveal more TDEs, which can shed light on how supermassive black holes grow and shape the galaxies around them. Following AT2022CMC's initial discovery, the team focused in on the signal using the Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer, that's NICER, an X-ray telescope that operates aboard the International Space Station. Things looked pretty normal for the first 3 days, recalled Dheeraj DJ Pasham, who is the first author of the study. Then we looked at it with an X-ray telescope, and what we found was the source was 100 times more powerful than the most powerful gamma-ray burst afterglow. Typically, such bright flashes in the sky are gamma-ray bursts, extreme jets of X-ray emissions that spew from the collapse of massive stars. Dr. Benjamin Gumpertz, assistant professor at the University of Birmingham, led the gamma-ray burst comparison analysis. Gamma-ray bursts are the usual suspects for events like this, he said. However, as bright as they are, there is only so much light a collapsing star can produce. Because AT2022CMC is so bright and lasted so long, we knew that something truly gargantuan must be powering it, a supermassive black hole. The extreme X-ray activity is believed to be powered by an extreme accretion episode when the shredded star creates a whirlpool of debris as it falls into the black hole. Indeed, the team found that AT2022CMC's X-ray luminosity was comparable to, though brighter than, 3 previously detected TDEs. It's probably swallowing the star at the rate of half the mass of the sun per year, Pasham estimates. A lot of this tidal disruption happens early on and we were able to catch this event right at the beginning, within 1 week of the black hole starting to feed on the star. We expect many more of these TDEs in the future, co-author Matteo Lucchini adds. Then we might be able to say, finally, how exactly black holes launch these extremely powerful jets. Now back to net, this is WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Do we have any questions, comments, or check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, now time for Tom again, KE5ICX. Tom, we have still got another 5 minutes or so. Do you have any exciting space launches or visible satellite passes that are exciting? I know we have some Artemis events, but they aren't launches. They're encounters with the moon. It's been a long time since we've had that. But do you have any other like real space launches going on this week or visible satellite passes? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Yes, I do. And by the way, I'm happy to report that the Echolink is back up. Problem is resolved, it looks like. So if you would like to, unfortunately, it's the end of this net, but if you hang around for Afterglow and you want to make comments there, or you want to test the Echolink, by all means, check in. It's powered up and it looks like it's working okay. I don't know for how long, hopefully forever, but we'll find out. Okay, this is what we've got for this week. We've got all this information comes from Spaceflight Now launch schedule, which is what that says, spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. So December 6th and 7th, overnight, there'll be a launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This will be Starlink 4-37. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch with another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. The Falcon 9's first stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. On December 13th, we've got a launch of Galaxy 3536 and MTG-11, or I-1 it is. This is from ELA Kourou, French Guiana. The Ariane Space will launch an Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA-259 to launch the Galaxy 3536 communication satellites for Intelsat, and the MTG-I-1 weather satellite for EUMETSAT Galaxy 3536, built by Maxar, will provide C-band television and video broadcast services over the United States. First, METEOSAT third-generation imager satellite, MTG-I-1, will provide weather imagery over Europe for the European Weather Satellite Agency. On December 15th, there'll be a launch of SWOT. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Surface, Water, and Ocean Topography mission for NASA. SWOT is a science mission jointly developed by NASA and CNES, the French space agency, to measure how much water is in Earth's oceans, lakes, and rivers. The Falcon 9 first stage will booster will return to the landing zone at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And then finally, I'm just going to give this one that is already, well, the launch time is to be determined, but it will launch on December 15th. This will be on a Falcon 9, launch from SLC-40 Cape Canaveral Space Force Base or Station in Florida. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch on the first of two O3B M-Power broadband internet satellites.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning
Earth orbit for SES Luxembourg. The satellites were built by Boeing and will provide internet services over most of the populated world, building on SES O3B network. The Falcon 9's first stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's it for now, Bill. There's more in December, but I'm going to leave it at that. We'll cover the rest of them next week. This is KE5 ICX back to net control.
Very good, Tom. Okay, it is time for the end of the net. So, do we have any, it's a 73 round, we have any questions, comments, or check-ins before I close this net? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet.
WB5OZL. I'm going to be net control for Afterglow this evening. Tom, what time do you want to get started on it?
Hey, let me close the net first. By the way, Tom, I tried talking on Echolink. It can listen, but I can't talk on Echolink. This is N5BB closing Skynet. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. Yeah, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. I'll look and see what the Echo Link problem audio is. This has been a technological horror story all afternoon. So I'll see what I can do. Thanks all. I'll be back in about, actually Brenda will be back in about 5 minutes. So 10:36 we'll be talking about failsafe. That's it from me. KI5 8E5 ICX. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes, actually. Brenda will see you in 5 minutes.
Apologies, Bill. I was just hearing a lot of dead air. I thought that the net was over, and I was confused. I'll see you all in a few minutes. WB5OZL.
No problem, Brenda. I was trying to use Echolink again, and I can hear just fine, and I can text just fine on Echolink, but I can't transmit. It looks like it's transmitting, but nothing is coming out. So it's like the Echolink transmitter, Tom, is not working. Receiver's working, but the transmitter's not working. You might see, Tom, if you can see the text I've been typing over there. We'll see you in a few minutes for Afterglow. It's a really, really serious story. N5BB. See you for Afterglow. And yeah, Brenda, the reason for the delay was I was trying to check the Echolink transmitter, and it wasn't working. So I'm sitting over there talking, and nothing was coming out of the repeater. And it took me a minute to really figure out why that was. Anyway, we don't know. We will see you in a minute for Afterglow. Failsafe, 1964. N5BB. Thank you. And for those who are curious, we had 18 check-ins tonight to Skynet, even though we didn't have Echolink. N5BB finally clear and waiting for Skynet. Excuse me, waiting for Afterglow.
KE5ICX. Echo Link works.
KI5KWG, and now we know why it's called Echo Link.
Tom, something's not working right with the Echo Link. Right now, it seems to be stuck in the transmit mode. It thinks it's transmitting. Earlier, we thought it was receiving, and anyway, I still don't think it's working right. N5BB. Out the repeater. Hello, test. Yell to make it work. N5BB clear. There we go, Tom. It sounds to be voice activated right now, and I've got to yell to get the volume high enough to make it work for my iPad. N5BB.
This is WB50ZL. We're about to begin the Afterglow movie net. Does anybody need to use the repeater before we start the net? tonight's movie is Failsafe. Fairly depressing movie from 1964. It kind of mirrors how people felt about nuclear war at the time. It should be depressing because it's a depressing subject, and it was depressing then. This is hard to watch, but I think there's a lot of fodder for discussion here on this. So we're going to take check-ins and take general check-ins first. Want to know your call sign, your name, and whether or not you saw the movie. So, first, please come now.
W5BLT, Bill, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill Garland, did not see the movie, just listening tonight.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Another Bill, this one in Irving. I did see the movie recently, like today, and I've seen it once or twice in the past also over the nearly 60 years it's been. N5BB.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jay near Weatherford, I did see the film today.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the movie, but I am going to just listen this evening because I'm fading fast and I'm not going to make it very far, I'm afraid. So no traffic from me. Good to hear everybody in V5F.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. I did see the movie, but just listening tonight, I keep losing the repeater. It keeps going in and out.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. This is Cruz in Arlington, and I did see the film.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville. Yes, I saw the film.
Okay, let's go through these. We have W5 BLT, Bill, who didn't see the movie and is just listening. N5BB, Bill, who did see the movie. KG5BZWJ, who did see the movie. November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, who saw it but is just listening. KB9SOK, Sean, he saw it but he's just listening. KI5KWG, Cruz, I missed whether you saw the movie.
KI5KWG, I did see the film. Yes, I did.
Thank you for the clarification. And KE5ICX, Tom, yes, he did see the movie. Do we have anybody on Echolink that would like to check in? Okay, any other check-ins?
KN5EEE, my name is Al, and yes, I've seen the movie.
Okay, Al, would you come back with your call sign again? I missed part of it.
You bet. That's Kilo November 5. Echo, Echo, Echo.
Okay, KN5EEEL, welcome to the net, and he did see it. Okay, well, we will pick up some more check-ins later as we go. Tom produced a rather fanciful synopsis of this movie, but I'm going to read what Wikipedia says about it. So even if you didn't see the movie, you get a pretty good, this is the entire plot, so you would know what is going on from this. So, the United States Air Force General Black has been having recurring dreams in which a Spanish matador kills a bull before a cheering crowd. Black flies to Washington, D.C. to attend a conference led by Dr. Gravitational, a political scientist renowned for his expertise on the politics of nuclear weapons. Gravitational is a fervent anti-communist. At a dinner party the evening before, he dismisses the fears that such a war would destroy the human race. To Gravitational, a nuclear war, like any other war, must have a victor and a loser, and the millions who might die in such a war are the price to be paid to end the Soviet threat. USAF early warning radar indicates that an unidentified aircraft is intruded into U.S. airspace. Shortly after, the intruder is identified as an off-course civilian airliner. However, a computer error causes one U.S. bomber group, Group 6, to erroneously receive apparently valid orders for a nuclear attack on Moscow. Attempts to rescind this order failed because a new Soviet countermeasure jams U.S. radio communications. Colonel Jack Grady, the group's commander, obeys the order, and Group 6 starts flying their Vindicator, that's in quotes, there's no such thing, bombers over the Arctic towards Moscow. The President of the United States attempts to recall the bombers or shoot them down. Gravitational is called on to advise the President. Though the military, including Black, warns the President that the Soviets will retaliate with everything they have, Gravitational insists that the Soviets will surrender when Group 6 reaches Moscow. U.S. fighters scramble to intercept the Vindicators using their afterburners, and they run out of fuel before they can reach Group 6 and plunge into the Arctic waters. Communications are opened with the Soviet premier. Jamming ceases, but the crew follows their training, dismissing the counter orders as a Soviet ruse. General Bogan advises the Soviets on how to trigger the Vindicator's defense missiles. The President struggles to find a solution that will avert a nuclear holocaust. He orders a U.S. nuclear bomber to fly towards New York City to bomb it if necessary, trading the largest American city for the largest Soviet city, despite knowing that the First Lady is there. The Soviets destroy most of Group 6, but miss both Grady's plane and a second decoy plane carrying only defensive weapons. The second plane draws Soviet aircraft away from Grady, despite Bogan's desperate pleas to the Soviets, allowing Grady to evade their defenses. The Soviets, in desperation, fire all of their weapons in the path of the remaining Vindicator. As Grady nears Moscow, the Americans are finally able to reach him via radio. Both the President and Grady's own wife desperately urge him to break off the attack. As Grady wavers, a salvo of Soviet missiles targets his plane. Grady decoys them with the last of his defensive missiles, causing them to detonate far above him, though Grady knows that his crew has received a fatal dose of radiation. Grady dismisses the pleas as a trick. The President remains in contact with the U.S. ambassador in Moscow until the telephone line abruptly cuts off with a loud squeal. He then orders General Black, whose wife and children live in New York City, to fly over the city and bomb it, using the Empire State Building as ground zero. After obeying, Black kills himself. As he dies, he calls out to his doomed wife, telling her that he has at last learned the meaning of the current dream. The Matador, me. The last moments of the film show images of people in New York going about their daily lives unaware of the coming disaster, followed by freeze frames of their faces as the nuclear bomb explodes. The Vindicator, as I said, no such thing. The military wouldn't cooperate with this movie. I can't imagine why. So they were using stock footage of B-58 hustlers, and in one they had one plane, and they tricked us into thinking it was many planes. Anyway, I mean, it was kind of cool to see stock footage. I love B-58s. They're just extremely cool planes. So it was nice seeing them. The film was shot in black and white and had no musical score, original music. So it was really a different kind of movie. Okay, we are going to start with the top and go down, and we're going to talk about first plot, then characterization, and then special effects. So first up, N5BB, Bill, what did you think of the plot?
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Well, for those of you who are much younger than me, you have to remember, this movie came out in 1964. This was right in the middle of the Cold War. There were, in school, I was in the 4th grade then, there were drills where, you know, duck and cover and get under the desk and that kind of stuff. There were fallout shelters in some people's backyards and in many buildings that had basements. They had all these fallout shelter signs, and in the basement of the building, it would have Geiger counters in it and food and water in case of a nuclear attack. It was serious. And I lived in Austin, a few miles from Bergstrom Air Force Base, and my brother, who was a couple years younger than me, did a little school project in elementary school where he drew circles around Bergstrom Air Force Base to show if they were a B-52 Strategic Air Command base with nuclear weapons on base. If they got a direct hit, you know, would our elementary school be demolished? And it might have survived, but all the frame buildings next to it would have been burned up. The newspaper came out, the Austin American Statesman newspaper came out with these full-page things you would tape to the back of a door, what to do in case of a nuclear attack, essentially. So that's the kind of things that were occurring in 1964. You know, President Kennedy had just been assassinated a few months earlier. Was unsure if that was the Russians or the Cubans. Anyway, so it was a very tense time. And that's, you know, the background for all of this. And the plot was just perfect for the time, actually. It's just right on. So, and there was all this concern about all these computerized things that were starting to be used for the defense system. You know, they had NORAD and North American Defense Command, and they were, you know, experimenting with all these automatic computer systems. So this is a movie of its time, and the plot is of its time. I need to be clear about that. So I like the plot. I think this is a really serious plot, and I think they played it correctly, straight, right up to the end. You saw all these struggles with people that just couldn't give the Soviets our secret information, and you saw the other Air Force officers that said we have to do it to prevent, you know, a huge nuclear war. And then, spoiler alert, you saw the president, Henry Fonda, do the ultimate sacrifice, you know, bombing New York City, Empire State Building. And the crew is going to die that did it. So you know, I like the plot. You know, I wouldn't want to see a bunch of different movies with similar deep, dark plots. It's too depressing. But I think, you know, once in your life, you need to see this movie. And I think that's it for the plot in 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I, too, grew up in Austin and was well aware of the close proximity of Bergstrom Air Force Base. I figured we were ground zero. And don't forget, we also had the big Nike base out west. Actually, there was a smaller Nike base right next to Bergstrom that nobody ever seemed to talk about. I found out about later when I was doing some research. So I was scared to death, just terrified. The Russians were just going to, without warning, attack us and blow us sky high. I wasn't the only one, obviously. That's why they made this movie. Everybody was afraid of the bomb. And after the Cuban Missile Crisis, this and Dr. Strangelove were sort of an answer to the Cuban Missile Crisis and the nuclear fears that we all had. It was pretty grim. It was real. All right, next up, KG5BZWJ. Plot.
Right, I guess I'm about to use Echolink here. Okay, so the plot. There's a few aspects to it which I found a little bit annoying, but I think if he changed the role from bombers to maybe submarine or whatnot, but I don't know what type of sea-to-land missiles existed in 1964. I just kind of feel like the plot device of it being something that cannot be revoked. I mean, I you kind of see the plausibility of it, but at the same time, it's kind of strange to have something without redundancy. But at the same time, we are talking 1964, and you know, people we're just getting into this new world of electromechanical thinking and whatnot, and well, you know, they didn't necessarily even know the things that happened that we know now, like you know, a certain supernova sending a certain certain very high energy particles and actually entering into our atmosphere and possibly changing a bit or two in a computer somewhere, like it has been demonstrated in certain, apparently it has been demonstrated in certain voting systems and whatnot. Votes, I believe, there's maybe a Nordic country, Denmark or something, where there was like there were more votes counted than more than could have been counted, and they were trying to figure out what happened. And it turns out it was exactly 1,024 bits. The number was 1,024. Anyway, I don't know the full investigation. I only know of this stuff through some another guy's YouTube channel. But you know, stuff like that. That's but yeah, even if perfectly operating equipment, yeah, something could conceivably happen that if you don't have your system set up for some sort of redundancy or something, you could have a bit flip. But anyway, I thought the tone and the otherwise, I talked way too much about some of those things. The tone of the movie, the seriousness, otherwise the plausibility of it seemed all very reasonable. I kind of agree with Bill. I have never seen this movie, but I'm glad I did. It's kind of interesting to know that this was released the same year as Doctor Strangelove, so it really had to have been on people's minds. Anyway, I think I've said my 2 cents, so I'll hand it back to Net Control, KQBCW.
Okay, KI5KWG. Cruz, what did you think of the plot of this movie?
KI5KWG. Having seen it several times in my life, I was 4 when it came out, had no knowledge of it, and Captain Kangaroo never mentioned it. But I saw it as a teenager, and the first time, and have watched it several other times. I think always because it just happened to have come on. As Jay said, I kind of find the premise a little faulty, and yet, you know, we see something similar in Doctor Strangelove and War Games and the Terminator series. So I guess we're not tired of it yet. Maybe I am. But you know, it held my interest. So the plot held my interest and could get over the problem of the believability of so many things going wrong in that sort of scenario. But and like most of you all, I think, you know, it triggers for me memories of those days. We had tornado drills rather than nuke drills during the Cold War in my school. I thought that was kind of clever in hindsight of the teachers to treat it something a little tamer, I suppose, and more survivable. You know, when this movie came out, I was very few miles from Carswell, Sac Base, at that time. And I'll share one other kind of bringing it home story, because that's really all I've got, is I have this picture of my parents smiling into the camera in a backyard luau party from, that would have been October of 1962, right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the story behind that picture that my parents tell is that they were having a great time at the party, but there was a meteor shower that night. Everyone was on edge. They saw the meteor streaking across the sky, and everybody just went home. So it was a tough time. That's what I've got for you. KI5KWG, back to net.
Thank you. Next, KE5ICX. Tom.
Well, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for doing the net for me this evening. Sorry, I had to hack there. I found the movie really engaging. I had forgotten I'd seen it not too long ago, probably a couple of months ago, and watched it again, and it's always something new or something different that I see in the film. One of the things that's really interesting about it, I think that is something that happens, what is it, paralysis by analysis, where everybody keeps trying to figure out what the heck is going on. The Soviet leader and his people who are unseen are busy trying to figure out what is America trying to do, why is the plane going over, why would the president come back and say the things that he does will help you shoot down the airplane. And then, of course, on our side, on the American side, they're saying, well, the Russians may have created this problem and jammed the bombers and making it look as though they're attacking, and we can get all sorts of good information about the aircraft, and then we can shoot them down because we know all their secrets. And this point counterpoint spy versus spy thing just keeps going on and on ad infinitum. And it is interesting in that is a metaphor for things that happen in the intelligence community. You have to interpret things. I've been reading a book about black ops, where analysts can look at something, maybe some, in this case it would be some keyhole or spy and satellite information, and you get two completely different interpretations. And in fact, one of those interpretations that I was reading about really does touch upon our one character, who is the expert that says they don't think like us, and therefore they think that everything is expendable. Well, that was a common thing to believe even up until the 1980s, and I thought that was really fascinating that they would continue to think that and have no way of really disregarding it because we're playing the spy versus spy. What if, what if, what if? So, you've got experts, and they're trying to explain it, and you've got the Army, the top brass, our military, trying to interpret and reinterpret what's going on. You even have the people that are running the consoles and all of the strategic stuff that's playing out on screen and telling them what's going on. But what also is interesting, too, is that there is some sort of electronic system that explains, as one of the samples at the very beginning, that's a commercial airliner that's lost two engines and had caused a wake turbulence or a thermal signature that looked like it was a missile, and that they had gone to a yellow alert, and then suddenly this mysterious system that is taking care of all this says, no, we were just kidding. It turns out it was a false alarm. When we get into the thing and it starts to really play out, that system more or less goes away. It just no longer provides any useful information, and now we're left to the everyone's opinion and what to do next, and then the president has to figure this stuff out. This also happens in diplomacy very frequently. In fact, there's some of that was going on just this week with the French president and our president talking about things, and then some of the maneuvering they were doing and patching up affairs with our number one ally for years and years. That also happens on a diplomatic level, not only in a wartime or near wartime footing that we have in this film. So these things I find just fascinating. I mean, I have a subscription to Foreign Policy magazine, which I dearly love reading about this sort of thing, and this film really brings it out, and it still has relevance. It still has a lot of things that go on today. Now, there is also this criticism of the main plot. How come they couldn't recall the plane? Well, maybe communications is out. Maybe there is jamming from somewhere. Maybe there could be, you play the spy versus spy, or there's a communications breakdown. Today, that's less likely because we have satellites everywhere, But what about if there's an EMP close and it disables all the systems? What happens then? Now today, unlike in this depiction, they would put the president on a modified 747-200 called an EC-4B, which is all analog. It looks like Air Force One, but it is not. It's similar in a look, but it is more white planes with blue stripes. And which, by the way, I got to see when I was up in Wichita. I was getting a seat check, I think, at the time. And so I took about 5 million pictures of it while I was there. But I digress. You would get on board that. You would have your experts on board. The plane would fly out. And we did have an emergency like that with 9/11, where the president is on board. And in that point, he kind of disappeared for a while because of the security issues. That brings about some weirdness, too. Who has access to the president, and how do they provide this information? Can he get too much information? Can he get not enough information? And in this film, did we get enough information? I don't know. It was left to some guessing on the part of everyone. He thought he had everybody employed in this process, and it is a dramatic story, and you can only limit it. But what is enough, and when is too much information? It's a fascinating thing to think about, and as Walter Matthau says, it's just a mental exercise. It's all a mental exercise until it's actually promulgated and forwarded as executable items. Anyway, I could emote forever. I just find the film fascinating, even with its potential lack of believability on recalling the plane. I don't think it's that unrealistic. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Alrighty. KN5EEE. Al, what are your thoughts, please?
Well, this was not my first time to see the movie, but I was sitting with my wife, and it was her first time to see it. So we talked a little bit about that perspective. I found the first comment she made when the movie was over interesting. She goes, "That's every bit as relevant today as it was then, and people should be made to sit and watch this movie." And I kind of like that. Having grown up on Air Force bases and SAC bases on occasion, I got to see some people kind of like the ones that were in the movie, and some of that felt a little familiar. And when I used to watch the movie, I would get hung up in that's a B-58, not a Vindicator. Oh, those guys in the fighters just changed from F-106s to F-101s to F-104s in mid-flight. And like I said, I've seen the movie several times. It's among my favorites. Henry Fonda's one of my favorite actors. And now when I look at it, what I see more, that I find more interesting, is watching the emotional evolution of people during the day as it becomes more and more clear that things are fixing to go really, really wrong. And at the beginning, just almost a throwaway line, Henry Fonda, the president, says, "Have him fix the air conditioner. It's hot down here." But you never see him sweat until it becomes clear that the number one ship is going to get through and blow up Moscow. And then they do a tight shot on his face, and he's got little beads of sweat all over, and that's the first time you see him sweat in the movie. An interesting cinematic device there, I thought, was that he stayed dry until that moment. Another thing that I found really interesting was that when Walter Matthau's character gets into an argument talking about, people are going to die, and that's okay because it's war, and then the person arguing with him that, no, that's okay, we need to save everybody, was a guy wearing General Stars. That in 1964, when they made that movie, that they flipped those roles, that it was the military guy arguing for peace and the civilian talking about perfectly acceptable 60 million people in collateral damage. But and I hate to use this word because it sounds pretentious, but the gravitas of his emotions as it goes on and on and on, and he realizes, I've got to make a huge sacrifice to save the world, the president, when he realizes that. And he asks his friend Black to go fly, General Black to go fly the mission. He's going to ask him to make a great sacrifice. And then they kind of throw a newspaper on there showing a picture of the president's wife going to be in New York City, and you realize he's just ordered his own wife to die. And he was the sacrifice that he actually was quoting, talking about Abraham's sacrifice. So once I get out of my own head and quit looking at the technical aspects of it, that that probably wouldn't work. And, the fail-safes in place could fail, and that's not that airplane. That's not that other airplane. Once I get out of my own head and just put that aside and realize that I'm watching a movie written by people that didn't serve in the military or understand what really happened. I mean, what really could happen with technology at the time. I enjoyed it on a deeper level, I think. That all having been said, I'm getting kind of long with it, so I'll go back to net control, KN5EE.
Okay, do we have any additional check-in? All right, it's my turn. This is WB50ZL. A lot of people say, oh, the plot's not believable, but that's, if you study airplane crashes, an awful lot of them are several unlikely things happening at once just by coincidence, and that's why it's not recoverable. And I think this is the same thing. Things went wrong several different ways, and it was just fatal. So I am buying that this could happen. It might be unlikely, but I still think it could. Now, this is a real reflection on the feeling at the time after the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Russians basically just openly said they were going to destroy us, which is pretty scary. And at the time, it would have been believable for them just to drop bombs on us to defeat us, because that was their goal, to do us in. So yeah, it was pretty scary. It really was. This is based on a book called what? It was the same name by Eugene Burdick and Harvey Wheeler, and don't know how closely it follows the book. But if anybody's read it, would like to know. And I hear back channel says it follows it closely. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the plot. It was a little unbelievable, all the coincidences and all that. But I thought they gave both sides of the issue a fairly good opportunity to state their case or show their side of it. Grim though it was, there were still some people at the time who didn't think that a nuclear war would destroy the Earth. I don't think anybody would argue now. And the problem, what we want to think about is what happens after this movie. If two major cities destroyed, well, what happens next? Do the Russians come on over and destroy another city? They go after Los Angeles or Dallas? And so you can get up with tit for tat. And I think a lot of people feel that if we have a nuclear war, it will be the last war, because you're gonna one up each other over and over and over again. Well, you're gonna win. That's what you intend to do. And throughout history, enemies were pretty, if they were pretty much well matched, the war could go on for a long time as they went back and forth and back and forth. If one of the parties was dominant, then they could easily win. But I can think of a number of scenarios for a nuclear war. They all end badly in one way or the other. I think the worst thing that could happen is too many nukes, and then we've got a nuclear winter, and that's pretty much the end of the world. So I hope any country that has nukes understands that. They don't seem to. They're always saber-rattling these days about how they have to have nukes to defend themselves, and then they might use it because for whatever silly reason they make up. So this is a cautionary tale. This is what it could happen if you don't get control of this beast. And I think we're still at that point today. Nobody seems to know what to do about nuclear weapons, because you can sign an agreement that you won't do this or that, but countries are always breaking those agreements, because when it comes down to it, if you're losing the war, you're going to do anything that's necessary to win, even though it's against the rules or never done before or has horrible outcome. They're still going to do it, because they're not going to just sit back and lose. They're going to use everything they have within their power to win. All right. Any more check-ins? Okay, we're going to talk about characterization. We'll start with Bill in 5BB.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is in 5BB. Just one preface thing here. The basic ideas in this movie aren't fictional. They're real. The U.S. did have, for many years, aircraft which had nuclear weapons in them, which were always in the air. And they also had command centers that were always in the air. I visited Offutt Air Force Base, where this movie, much of it takes place, part of it, in Nebraska, a number of times. And I've been down underground in part of that underground structure. And the command centers, the flying command centers, were sent from that base. So the basic premise was real, okay? It was not fictional. And the consultant that Walter Matthau played, and by the way, as far as we're talking about characterization, I thought he played it very well. Walter Matthau, of course, can be a comic actor, but he's also a very good serious actor. In this case, he played Professor Gravitational. And Sidney Lumet, the director, who was at the peak of his career when he made this movie. Sidney, and he liked making these psychodrama movies. This is exactly the kind of psychodrama movie that Sidney liked. Sidney Lumet liked. Anyway, he commented that the Professor Rodenschilly was based on Herman Kahn, a real guy, the founder of the Hudson Institute, and one of the futurists involved with nuclear theory, including something that's people in that institute talked about was mutually assured destruction, which essentially is kind of what you're talking about here. Let's see, this is in 5BB, a break. So all those kind of things that Walter Matthau was talking about and saying, and he was so convinced of it, there were other people at the time saying those exact same things in those similar ways. That was not crazy. It was crazy talk from our point of view, but back in the time, there were a number of people making those exact comments, okay? So I thought that characterization was right on. I thought the characterization of Henry Fonda as the president was perfect. Number one, the choice, the casting in this movie was fantastic. Walter Matthau as the professor, Henry Fonda as the president, Larry Hagman as Buck, the interpreter, did a really good job, and Daniel Hensley as General Black. All these kind of people that played these positions were just, from my point of view, they were right on, perfect casting. Even Nancy Berg as the Elsa Wolf, who was very excited about all these concepts in a sexual way. I thought this was just fantastic casting all up and down. And the characters I thought were really strong. I mean, Henry Fonda as the president, you understood exactly what he was thinking. You saw him sweating, talking about the temperature of the place. You saw Larry Hagman as Buck. You saw him with, this is the cinematography, but the picture, the facial expressions and the body language were just amazing. Both the characterizations and the directing, I thought, were just awesome. And this may be related more to the directing than characterizations, but I was really noticed, besides Henry Fonda and Larry Hagman there by themselves in those discussions with the Russian premier, or the Soviet premier. Also, did you notice when Henry Buck first got there, Larry Hagman, and he went down the elevator? I don't know if you noticed, but when he got in the elevator, the president was looking the other way, and the camera was from the point of view of Buck, Larry Hagman, looking at the back of the president, in his back of his head. The way that was photographed, the characters were presented that way. I was just awestruck by the way that was done. I really have a hard time imagining these action directors now, the special effects and everything, being able to film a movie in this way. I don't think anybody would do it anymore. But to me, it's just awesome. And the fact it was done in black and white made it even better. I like Fritz Weaver as Colonel Cassio. So, I don't know. Even the Soviet premier, the way you learned about him through what he said and those things, I think we learned about his character, and I really liked that characterization also. So, anyway, for me, I was very excited and pleased with how well the movie did characterization and how well they were directed and acted in the movie. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Next, KG5BZW. Jay, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Sorry, wanted to make sure, hear myself through the radio link. I'm keeping the phone right next to me, so I don't think it's going to be such an issue as we might have been having earlier. Anyway, so yeah, I thought, for like knowing well how else to put it, I thought the characterization was great. You got there's I guess I should have written some notes because wow, from the first Nancy Bird is Lisa Wolf to Henry Fonda as the president here. There's a lot of different interesting characters. Lots of it's even like nobody was the most interesting aspect to me, I guess, is like nobody's like I would say strictly evil, although Walter's character, Dr. I'm not going to pronounce that. I'm not going to even try that. If I had it freshly in my mind, I might try, but his is more of a calculating nature, with maybe some questionable ethical presumptions, but yeah, I otherwise, like, everybody seems pretty human. Yes, the doctor was a little bit sociopathic, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right term. I don't know. I need to figure out a better way to describe his character, but it was clear what his priorities were, and it's very interesting seeing hawkish words from a civilian, and I think that's why. But of course, there's you got that from civilians, that that hawkish type talk, I should say. So it's just such an interesting balance. I don't know how much Henry Fonda here is the president. I think is almost playing a we wish we had, but I don't know how many presidents would actually take that serious of a stake. I don't know if they would really believe in that kind of it is a gamble, to do something like that. It's a very, very much a gamble. And whether or not it's a good gamble is actually a good. I mean, that's one thing I love about this movie is that it allows for that talk. Whether or not in some ways, whether. I'm sorry, signal just disappeared. I just realized that was tonight's just not a good night to try to hit the repeater from here. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Whether or not the situation was realistic is kind of immaterial because it puts you in that frame of mind to talk about where maybe this situation isn't real, but, you know, some sort of permutation or some, you know, stuff that's really actually hard to put together in a few words. Maybe there's some combination, therefore, that is kind of analogous. And I think it was a good launching point to have this kind of discussion, even though it's more of a good launching point for more philosophical rather than a utilitarian or realistic, because you know you have the general problems that this movie points towards. There was a lot of stuff that I don't think this would be quite happening that way, but yes, I will grant that something. I won't say similar, but I will say analogous could definitely. I would say something like that could happen. Analogous. It's like it might be a little bit more complicated, and it's like, you know, a lot more detail and a lot more things have to heck up. But it's possible. So I think it's kind of strayed away from characters, but since I didn't really talk that much about the plot and whatnot and other stuff, I guess I used this for that. But anyway, I'll hand it to the next person. KQ5BZW.
Alrighty, next, KI5KWG, Cruz. What do you think of the characters?
KI5KWG. I'm really unprepared for tonight. I unexpectedly had the day off yesterday, and I binged watching films. And so this one's several films back for me at the moment. Larry Hagman surprises me, seeing him before I knew him in anything else. And really thought he did well. And I've never seen Walter Matthau do a performance that I didn't admire. I'd say I was a fan, but I don't watch all of his films. He's done many, and I like that very much. Other than that, I don't think I really have anything to add here. KI5, KWG, back to net.
Okay, K5ICX, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. I won't go as long as I did on the other part. I thought everyone was really well cast in this film, and I am also a big fan of Henry Fonda and his roles, so diverse as they are. He does kind of play Henry Fonda and everything, but he makes the best Henry Fonda I've ever seen playing Henry Fonda. Some of the other curious casting, Walter Matthau, who is traditionally known as a comedian, was in there. Don DeLuise had a minor role in the film, so he probably before he really broke out as a character. Weaver, of course, was great. Larry Hagman played straight roles and he played comedy through the years. I thought he did a good job as Buck. So, and there's so many others in here. There's just an all-star cast. Dana Elcart. He was kind of interesting. He's playing something more than what was he in Charlie's Angels, I think, later on. So he has acting chops that really do work in this film. So overall, I thought casting was wonderful. Characters were good, sometimes a little stereotypical of sorts, but there's a lot of thinking going on, which I mentioned in the last round. And the angst on everyone's faces is very significant, especially when we see, who is it? Castiel, I sometimes forget who was doing what, but the one character who was breaking down in the war room when he has to give up the secrets that are so important, the angst on his face, and then your breakdown, and then finally he does have a breakdown in the thing. That would be really tough. It would be, is that realistic? I don't know. Again, some of these things, I think there have been incidences in the past where nuclear war was very close because of things that had happened. Today, these people would be under incredible more pressure because now it's not always bombers heading into foreign territory where you've got minutes, significant time to potentially stop it. Now we have ICBMs, IRBMs that fly over, and you've got minutes to make a decision. And that is just really scary. And I can't imagine how these people would be able to do that quickly. Of course, your intelligence has to be good. You know ahead of time what's going on. Characters have to assess that. And as I mentioned earlier, assessing that information could be difficult and could be contradictory. So I'm going to end it with that. I don't have a lot to say about characterization that hasn't already been said, but I am impressed with this cast. AE5ICX.
Okay, KN5EEE, Al, what did you think of the characters?
Overall, I thought it was just remarkably well cast. I got taken out of the story a little bit when Dom DeLuise walked on the screen because I'd known him as nothing but a comedic actor before. But I hadn't really thought to look this up until just a moment ago when this was mentioned. This was his third role, so he wasn't really known as a comedic actor when they cast him. But aside from him and Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard being on there, and again, that was long before he was Boss Hogg. Man, did they do a good job casting this. Walter Matthau as Gravitational was authoritative, but you kind of hated him, and about the only thing that he did that I didn't hate him for was turn down the advances of Ilsa Wolf in the car, because I believe his character was married, so he stayed true to his wife. That's the only thing I didn't I couldn't get over him casually saying, yeah, 60 million people, that's fine. Henry Fonda, I'm right there with the earlier comment. I can't think of a role I've ever seen him in that I didn't like him in. He's just greatness always. His performance was a little subdued, so you kind of had to look for subtext in what he was saying, and just very subtle changes in his demeanor. He didn't really emote heavily, but again, that's kind of his acting style. But you still never knew what he was, or never doubted what he was thinking. But among my favorite characterizations on this is Larry Hagman as Buck, because when he first walks on screen and he's talking to the president, he looks like a little boy that's been, called into a place he's not comfortable. His head is down, his shoulders are kind of stooped forward a little bit, his posture is not great. And by the end of the movie, he has become confident. He's part of the team handling the situation with the president. Kind of interesting how the lighting changed on him as he evolved through that. When it came down to where he was full on board, there was a tight face shot of him translating with the headphones on, and it was almost half lit from the back side, so it gave him a very dark, ominous appearance on screen, which I thought was interesting, but still very cool, very effective shot. And I kind of agree with everybody what they've said so far is just, you know, this is a well-cast movie, and everybody that was on screen was doing their part pretty darn well. And, there's where I run out of stuff to say, so I'll go back to net control KN5 EEE.
Thank you. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, this is WB5OZL. Well, I agree with pretty much everybody. There wasn't a bad casting in this whole movie. Fabulous, venerable actors and meaty roles, and they all looked great. The photography in it was wonderful. I know I'm straying, but it did help to give the characters it helped to characterize characters when you have the photography, the starkness of it, the contrast that they had. It helped make the characters come alive, and I just think it gave them more credibility. I won't belabor it. It's almost midnight. That's pretty much everything's been said. I can't think of anything fresh to say about characters. So we're going to do one more round, and I tell you what, if you have anything to say about special effects, which there really weren't anyway, it's stock footage, and that was it. Anything else you want to say, just go ahead and check in now, and you can, and we'll go around. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to Whiskey.
KE5 ICX.
All right, N5BB. What you got, Bill?
This is N5BB. There are some subplots in this movie which are striking. So the first one is how the movie starts, which is really brave, I think, for the director and the actors and everything. It starts as a dream and a nightmare, a recurring nightmare, where General Black, Danner Hurley, sees this bull being killed and the matador and all those kinds of things. And at the end of the movie, he has this flashback to that. He kills himself, with one of the, if you're in a war and you might get caught by the enemy, they have a way of sometimes of killing yourself, like spies. So he kills himself there with that drug, and he's yelling out he's kind of screaming out to his wife that he now knows the meaning of the dream. So, that's a really deep psychological and other theme that ties the movie together from the start to the end. And that was rather brave to do that, and it's kind of interesting. Another thing I thought was really interesting, a little subplot thing, was we learned one big backstory about one character. That's Colonel Cassiopeia. That's Fritz Weaver. He's the general that kind of goes crazy, and they have to restrain him. But early in the movie, he's called by his parents to their house, and he obviously comes from parents with a very low-income neighborhood, and his dad is alcoholic, and they're constantly fighting and everything. And, the fact that his commanding general, gets to see that and everything, which, of course, is very embarrassing to him. You can see how embarrassed he is, sweating and everything, going back in the vehicle. And I'm watching that scene in the car as they're driving back, and it's like his commanding officer was wanting to ask him if his parents were okay or what was going on there, but he doesn't ask him. And Colonel Cassio does not admit what happened or say anything about it. The tension in that scene. So there's just, to me, some incredibly good scenes that have nothing to do with the bigger plot, but the way that they were, the tension in the scenes, what it tells you about the characters, and the way that was directed and acted, I thought were just amazing. So that's why I was really excited to see this again. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Thank you very much for selecting it tonight. BB.
Thank you, Bill. I did not select this movie. In all these years, I've selected exactly one movie, The Creeping Terror. All the rest are selected by Tom, but I get the blame if nobody likes the movie. It's just a running gag. Okay, KG5BZW. Jay, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Well, I mean, when people say there's not any special effects, I have to say, I often feel like I have to say, you sure about that? Because there's always the stuff that kind of blends into the background, like the view screen of everything that was happening, which I found really kind of fascinating, because I've seen. I'll have to look at some of the animations from back in the day, but clearly they a system. I don't think that the system would quite look the same if it were, especially if it were computer generated. There's nothing saying that it's computer generated at all, but still they have to have something that tracks everything. I think part of what made it the display as it was, and of course you can make arguments about, okay, the scale is all wrong and all this, that, and the other. So it's almost the most interesting thing about that is I feel like that's a preview of the technology that was actually to come. Like, oh wow, because I don't know that that's necessarily what technology we had right then. I would like to know what kind of hybrid computer plus map plus whatever else kind of interface they might have had. They may have had, I mean, it's not inconceivable that they could have something that has little glyphs for aircraft or whatnot that, you know, showed up various points or whatnot, but for the whole world like that, for now, I mean, I'm bringing this up because, like, how often is computer people do with computers is depicted in in films. And it's a lot like what they do with this film. They don't really show the actual boring aspects of it, that there's going to be often a lot of data and not so much visual representation, or that the visual representation is going to be just so bloody obscure, the layman's just not going to understand it. So it's just interesting thinking about that versus how computer graphics have been shown in Hollywood. Of course, we got the shots of the Convair, B-58, and all of that, which were, and all of that. I didn't really, that stock footage. There really isn't that much to say on that, I gotta admit, but yeah, that war room, or those two war rooms, wasn't there? Oh, no, there's the war room, and then there's the one with the V-shaped desk that the doctor was in. They also saw the same thing, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting too. But anyway, I wanted to make those remarks on that. That's all. KQ5BZW.
Inside BB, I have two really quick comments, Brenda.
N5BB, go ahead.
The first one is related to what Jay said. Just look up SAGE computer. This is exactly what they were showing you there. The SAGE computer system was massive, and it was vacuum tube computers, and it did exactly what you were seeing there, that kind of stuff. You can see pieces of that SAGE computer in the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California. The second thing is, this is something new I just discovered this evening. On Friday, the Air Force unveiled the newest stealth nuclear bomber aircraft, the B-21 Raider by Northrop Grumman. Go read about that. Many of the same concepts here, stealth, like can the bomber get there without the enemy seeing it and everything, was exactly what they were talking about in the movie Failsafe. N5BB. Look up B-21. Came out Friday. N5BB clear.
Thank you. And KE5ICX, do you have some more comments?
Yeah, actually I got 4 comments, but they're very short. The special effects in the film, I liked the war room. It was pretty cool. One of the things that they mentioned was that you could see right down to the individual hairs on the heads of people someday. And of course we reached that. But the thing that was kind of hilarious was the big super map on the wall. The 3-story map. It shows Michigan, and it's like grotesquely disfigured. So, and of course all the aircraft are super gigantic in comparison to the map as they maneuver. So it was low-tech special effects. Of course, the story was the most important part, but I found that kind of interesting. Now, connected to that is, believe it or not, I was reading, and there was a remake of this film. It was a TV movie done in 2000. That film had Richard Dreyfuss, Brian Dennehy in it, Martin Casada, and Stephen Frears. I recognize 2 of those people. It is available, by the way, on archive.org, or you can pay a $3 fee and watch it with a decent copy from Prime Video, a few other places as well. The one that they have available on archive.org was actually taken from the television version, complete with ads and everything else. So if you want to have a big look back on what the year 2000 looked like and what you could buy, those ads are in there as well. So there you go. You can see that film. Another thing I wanted to mention was about the music. There was none. That's extremely unusual. Most of the time, and everybody knows I'm kind of a soundtrack fiend. I love music in movies. But I also appreciate when the absence of it actually enhances the film, and it did in this case. So a lot of times you don't always recognize that. Some people don't pay attention to the music, and they just ignore it. And in some cases, there's no music at all, which makes it even more interesting, and it works. And then finally, on Bill's part, Stage 7 computer system, which he keeps talking about, that was used. A very interesting history. It also has some of the first high-speed aircraft on radar screens ever produced. There is also a smaller version that was built into the B-52, or was used in the B-52. So that's quite fascinating. There's a film all about it. You'll recognize them because these devices were actually bought up by 20th Century Fox years ago and used in a number of 60s, 70s, 80s, and 2000s television series, the latest of which was Lost in the Hatch in the final season, or second to final season of Lost, when they did the retro thing. At any rate, that's all I had. I enjoyed this discussion. If you want to, I'll tell you what next week's movie is, KE5ICX.
Yes, please do, KE5ICX, and this is WB50ZL.
Well, thank you, and since we all know that Failsafe is a Christmas movie, you're scratching your head, but at any rate, we're going to call it a Christmas movie to make sure that everything works in December. Next week's movie will be Airport from 1970, chock full of 707s and lots of noise. I love this film, and it does have a Christmas kind of thing to it. So that's it for next week. You can find the information under Afterglow Movie in the Facebook page, as well as future movies that are lined up and listed under Guides. You'll have to go to Guides to see all of the films. The most recent ones, future films, the most recent ones are published as next week's films or previous films, but you have to go for anything beyond that, like on the 17th and 24th movies are listed. Christmas Carol and Lifespot, you can find out about those going to the Guide section. If you don't like that and you would prefer to receive them as, let me reset. Prefer to receive them as a email, and I did get one of those just last week, so there are some people that are picking up on them, is just send an email to me, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com. Say you want to be added to the movie list, and I will put you on there, and you can start receiving weekly updates on this. I usually send them out Sunday morning. That's it, Brenda. Wonderful net. Thank you for hosting tonight. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks to everybody that participated. We're going to close the net. This is WB5OZL Claire.